Science has always been the hardest subject for me to stay consistent with in our homeschool. This year, I've kind of just taken a big leap and I've decided to do it completely different. I am getting rid of our textbook and focusing on literature instead. Hi, I'm Jamie. I am a homeschooling mom of 4 children. My kids are ages just about 5 through 11. We have been homeschooling this is our 7th year. Science, like I said, has been the one that I struggle to be consistent with. We've done unit studies in the past, which were super fun. They just take kind of some time and prep. We've tried textbooks and I've tried a couple different ones and I can never really just get into them. I always find myself itching for picture books. And if you've seen any of my videos before, you know I do this in a lot of subjects. We use picture books to work through American history. We use them for our language arts studies. So it's just something I'm really passionate about. And the reason is because a picture book can work for so many people. It can work for little ones. It can work for elementary kids. It can work for middle schoolers. It can work for adults. Through our study of American history, I am in my 30s and I learned more American history through reading picture books than I ever did growing up in school. So they really have power. And the reason is because they're engaging and they're fun. I knew science had to follow suit. If you saw my curriculum picks for this year, 2025 to 2026, you saw that we were going to try and do family study science using a science textbook. We're all in a co-op this year and my older girls are in classes for these. And I thought, surely let's just simplify and we'll just use this textbook all together as a family and make it easy. You guys, I opened this book to plan for our first week of school and I dreaded reading it out loud. There is just so much text in here. Yes, it's quality information, but when you're trying to read it to little ones, even to my 9-year-old, it's hard to get through. It's hard for me to read, and most of the time I feel like it's just going straight over their head. As I opened it up, I thought to myself, there is no way I can read this. I don't want to read this. And that's when I knew things had to change. So here's how this video is gonna work. I've created this new science curriculum, Science Through Picture Books. It's in the beginning phases. Unit 1 is ready to go. I'm gonna show you what Unit 1 is. We're gonna look through the whole thing, and then I'm gonna tell you the future of what it will be, because I'll be creating this as I do it with my family. It's exactly what it says it is, science through picture books. We've already started it in my own home, and we have so much fun already. I enjoy reading it. I get the picture books and it's like I could just suddenly come alive as I read these stories to my kids, and they can interact with me as we read the stories together. It's just so much more engaging and fun than sitting here trying to read all of this text to them that they can barely understand. So let's go ahead and look at one of these units so you can see exactly what it's made of. This unit you can download and it's about 15 pages, but you don't have to have it printed. You can have it on your device as you refer to it when you're working through the books. My hope is that you can get these books from your library to make this a very inexpensive science curriculum. And because there is a completed list, you don't have to do any searching. When you go online to your library website, you can literally type in the books you want, put them on hold, and have them ready to go. And because it's not history that kind of works on a timeline, it really doesn't matter what order you read them. You can read them as they come in if you'd like. Let me first give you a big picture look at what this is. This Science Through Picture Books is going to be made up of units, and each unit is going to contain 12 books. And the reason I picked 12 books is because it gave us a focus. When you go and search a science topic, you're literally going to find hundreds of books. Even if you go to a blog post of another homeschooling parent that studied this topic, they're going to give you the 26 books that they like the best, right? I've gone and I've researched all of these blog posts. I've read tons of books, and I try to find ones that are relevant to the topic, engaging to young ones, and can really give us a foundation of science knowledge. And so instead of having this huge amount of books that you're trying to get through, we're going to streamline and simplify this and get it to 12 books. And 12 is a good even number. Let me open this up and I'll show you what I mean. When you get the download, it's going to start with a letter from me, as well as just an introduction of who my family is and how we've done science in the past. I write very honestly. I really just want it to feel relatable, like we're having a conversation. So we have the introduction, and there's some images on here as well, and I'll get to what those images are here in a second. Then we're gonna get to how to use this guide. So I'm basically gonna walk through this so you can really understand what the guide is about. I'm gonna have the image here too, so you can take a look at it as I explain it. So the first thing is a look at the lesson. If you're curious what a lesson is like in this curriculum, it's exactly what you might think. Picture you and your kids just gathered around on the couch, maybe outside on a picnic blanket, and you just read a picture book to them. I truly believe in the task of narration when your children can narrate to you the story. And so I'm going to get into detail about that with this unit. So you read a picture book, you have your children tell you about the book and have discussions from that. And that's it. That's the lesson. I know some people like to go just a little bit further. So if you wanted to, I have some optional things for you available as well. You can see in the chart there, I have science notebook, and I'll explain to you how you can differentiate that with different age levels and skill levels. You can add written narration. So if you want some writing practice for your older kids, I'll go into that. There are videos paired with every single book. So if you wanted to get in the habit of reading a book and then showing a video about the book, then you can do that as well. And finally, at the end of the unit, I have a chart of enrichment activities ranging from super simple to a lot more complex and prep needed. You can pick one or all of those activities, work them in throughout your weeks, maybe do them all at the end or skip them completely. It's totally up to you. I love the flexibility of this. You know, I know some of us are in seasons with babies and toddlers, and it's really hard to kind of fit things in. Maybe you want to take it as simple as possible and just read through the books and know your kids are learning the topics and you're having good discussion. Or maybe you're in a season where you kind of want to get crafty. You want to go a little bit further. You have older kids. That option is there for you as well. So I really hope that this can kind of provide a variety of options for you as you plan out your science lessons. Next, we get to adding the unit to your homeschool. I use this unit all alone with my children. That's it. This is all we do. I don't have a textbook anymore. My older girls, they're working in a textbook on their own. We're out. But for my little ones, this is all we do. We don't add anything else. You can do that as well, but you have other options. If you are more comfortable using a textbook, you can use these book lists as a supplement to that textbook. Or if you are creative and you like creating your own unit studies, then maybe you want to take this book list and create your own unit study where you're kind of reaching across multiple subjects. It works for that as well. Some of the questions I got when I brought this up on some of my social media accounts is this going to meet science standards? Well, as a homeschooling mom, I always hesitate to look at standards because that's one of the reasons I homeschool is so that I don't have to make my child fit a certain standard. However, I do think it's important to kind of just have an overall view of what is required at different age levels in a school system. And maybe it also just gives us a focus on where we start and where we want to go as we teach our children. So I think, there's a good and bad to it. And I'm going to try with these units to kind of meet everybody in the middle, right? There are Common Core standards which focus on literacy in science, and you're definitely going to get that through this. States across the country do not conform to one type of standard. There are the next generation science standards that some states have developed, but not all of them. Some states have their own. I tried to take next generation science, and I'm using 3 of their categories to basically inspire my unit. I look at their elementary levels and I look at the topics that they're covering in those elementary levels, and that's what's guiding me on creating these units. I won't be stating standards in here because my intention is for this to be a family study. If you're teaching a 6-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 10-year-old, that's an extensive list that would be completely overwhelming. But I do encourage you, if you are curious about standards or concerned about standards, the Next Generation Science website has lists that you can print out and see what topics they're covering in those grade levels. Something I want to point out, and Next Generation Science will even say this on their website, the point of science in the elementary years is not to master all of these topics. It's to be exposed to these topics so that you can kind of ignite this curiosity and create a desire to learn more. And so that's why I love doing this through picture books. There's nothing igniting about a paragraph in a textbook, right? But if suddenly you have these picture books with all these images and this engaging text, suddenly it becomes so much more interesting, where maybe your kids are like, that was really good, I want to know more. Maybe you pause the unit and you go to the library and you learn more about something. That's totally up to you. But that's the goal here in these elementary years. And that's why, I'm not sure if I stated this, the unit is for K through 5th. I'm focusing on elementary science, building a foundation of science knowledge so that when they get to middle school, they can take off from there. All right, let's keep going. Next, we talk about collecting picture books. My hope is that you can get these from your library, but sometimes I know that can be hard. So in this guide, I list for you so many different things that you can do if you can't find the book. And I'm not gonna go through all of them. If you wanna pause and read it, you can, but don't feel bogged down by a specific list. Sometimes I think that can be stressful, like I have to have this book, but I reassure you in this guide and encourage you with other options in case you can't get a specific book. So don't let that stop you. Next, we get into the scheduling, and this is where the 12 books comes in. Remember, I wanted that real good even number. This is how it can work out. If you look at the chart on this page, you can see 1 book a week is going to let you finish this unit in 12 weeks. 2 books a week, 6 weeks. 3 books a week, you'll finish it in 4. And 4 books a week, you'll finish it in 3. So you get to decide how you want to incorporate this science and how long you want it to take. And then you can always add an extra week for enrichment or anything like that, but it just kind of helps you see a visual how you can make this work in your family. Next, I'm going to guide you through narration. I told you how much I believe in this, and I've seen it in my own home and how it has developed my children's thinking skills, how it has increased their vocabulary, their reading comprehension, and their speaking skills, all with just one simple task, and that's telling me about a book. It might sound crazy, but I promise you, you're going to want to learn more about this. I tell you about it in the guide, and I show you exactly how to apply it to these books, and that's what you see here in this guide. The book notes and discussion section, that's going to be easier when we actually see it, and that's coming up. Next is written narration. A good age to start writing about books is probably 9 or 10 once you've developed a little of your oral narration skill. I kind of walk you through how to do written narration with these science books. And it's very simple, but if you have an older kid, maybe a 4th or 5th grader that is working on writing skills, this could be a great way to put in writing in your week. I go into talking about the optional videos that are there. If you'd rather make this a screen-free unit, you can definitely do that. The videos are just enriching to the topics that you're learning about. Next, we get into the science notebooks. There's so many different things that you can do with this. You've got the written narration where your older kids are just writing about something. You can record your children's oral narrations where you're writing in a notebook and having them tell you. I like to give my kids a little piece of paper and they draw pictures. This makes me want to go back to that page that had the images. This is just kind of an example of what your science notebook could look like. You know, having your kids draw a picture and they tell you about their picture. Your older kids writing, or maybe you print out a coloring picture. I talk you through all of these options in this science notebook section. I once heard a podcast before about narration and how to be successful with it. And even though I kind of talk about it in the guide, the points were so important that I love putting it in my units that focus on narration. This comes from Sonia Schaefer from Simply Charlotte Mason, and I have her information in my notes page in the back of this unit. But there are 5 steps, and I take those 5 steps and I show you exactly how they apply to the science unit as well. Next, we get into the good stuff, the picture book checklist. All right, so as you can see, I've covered up some of it because that is the curriculum, right? But I've left the first few there for you. So maybe you want to kind of, I don't know if I can do this. I just want to try it out and see what it's like. There's the first 3 books for you for this unit. So you'll notice on the left, I put the topic for you to show you what we're covering, and then is the book with the author. Next to that is the optional video that goes with it, and those videos are linked right here. So if you have this on your device, like an iPad or something, you can literally click on it and show your kids right there. Or if you wanted to pull up like a YouTube app and stream it on your TV, you could do that as well. That's why I have all the title and the account listed there for you so that you can search it on your TV if that's better for you. This is what the picture book looks like. And this is what you can take online to your library website and just put these books on hold. You've got 12 books on hold, they're ready to go, you go and pick them up, and then your science unit is ready for you. As I said, I've got the first 3 there. If you want to go to your library and get those first 3 books, just try it. I promise you. Take those books, sit down with your kids and read them, and ask yourself this: what if this was my science? What if this feeling, this engaging discussion, this amazing visual was my science? And ask yourself how you enjoy it. If it brings you joy as you teach it, then maybe come back and get the unit and look at more books. Or you can decide, you know what, I might need to do more, I might need to do less. You get to decide, but I wanted to show you those first three, so if you kind of want to just get a little taste and see, you could definitely do that. Next, we've got the chart of enrichment activities. It's going to start from super simple, and then it's going to work its way to a little more complex. Are there more things that you can do related to this topic? Yes, there are. But I kind of just break down a few to remember it's streamlining and simplifying so that you can pick what works for your family. Now we get to book notes and discussion, and this is my favorite part of these units because I literally walk you through every single book. You can see right here, I'm going to tell you the title of the book, and then that first group of text is just my thoughts on the book, kind of just some tips or maybe just like a little summary, just something that might help you as you're starting this book. And then we get into looking ahead and possible discussion. Looking ahead is one of those tips from the 5 successful tips to narration. It kind of just introduces the book and helps you get it going. So that way you're making connections. You're not just reading a random book and moving on. Like, you can make it so much more meaningful when you introduce it the right way and have the right discussion. So I guide you in doing that, and that's what looking ahead is. You can read it just like a script. There's questions, there's things for you to say to your kids and kind of questions to get them thinking about what's to come as you read. And then you get to the possible discussion where you have your narration prompt. You can see that there, the first one, it says, tell me about the forest. And then some optional questions if you want to ask them to your children. And I have one of these for every single book in this guide. I personally love them because it kind of just gives me a focus. I can get distracted with things, or I can just maybe try to work through something really quickly. And this kind of tells me, hey, kind of take a minute and talk about these books, have a good discussion about it, and make sure that your kids are really getting all that they can from these books. All right, so that's a look at the whole unit. I don't even know if I said what it was, but this first unit is terrestrial habitats. These are land habitats. And that's what we started with. And the reason I picked that is because that was supposed to be our focus in the textbook that I had originally chosen. Once we finish this unit, I'll move on to another. So this is where I get into the future of science through picture books. I will be creating these as I work through them with my family. My goal is to do aquatic habitats next. And then after that, I'm probably going to do weather and climate. And then I hope in the spring, early summer to do a plant unit. So that puts us at 4 units for this year. That's how I plan to release them, just as these little mini units, which is so great. If you go to the next generation science standards, you're gonna see that, like, say in kindergarten, they learn weather and climate. Well, they're going to learn it again in 2nd grade, and then they're going to learn it again in 4th grade, you know? And I don't know if that's exactly what it is, but you get the picture. The point is just to give our kids these little tastes of these topics so that then as they get older, they can take off from there. And that's what these units are. And that's why it's great as a family study, because you can all learn together with these books, and you can pick any unit you want to pick. And if you want to take it further, like let's say, oh my goodness, my kids are just loving this weather and climate, great. Pause on the book list, go to your nonfiction section in the library and have them go nuts, okay? So this might ignite some more interest-led learning, but the point was to provide a streamlined, simplified list for families that want to learn science through picture books. I'm telling you, this has just been such a positive change in my homeschool. The first time I read a picture book to my kids, I just was filled with joy as I read because they were interacting with me. This was the book we were reading. It's called Creep, Leap, Crunch, and it's so cute. It's about the food chain, specifically the food chain in the forest. And I was reading it to them, and they were just having a ball. They were smiling. We learned so much. And it was just a blast. And then they drew pictures and told me about their pictures, and it was the cutest thing. And then I showed them the video after. And what's funny is a couple days later, my son was begging me to watch the food chain video. And I asked him, he's 4, okay? He's almost 5. I asked him, I said, what can you tell me about food chains? And he literally was able to narrate to me the basics of a food chain. So it's just proof that these things stick in their head when it's this beautiful and this interactive. It's just so much more meaningful than a textbook. And I could talk about that for hours. I really could. I'm so passionate about using picture books for learning. And I'm telling you, even in my adulthood, I can get so much more from this than a textbook. If you feel this also, or if you're kind of feeling this itch, like I can't do this textbook anymore, or I just need something else to spice up my lessons, I promise you, just try those 3 books in the picture books and see what comes of it when you read those to your kids. And it's just gonna ignite a completely different feel of the subject. Terrestrial Habitats is available now, and I'll put the link in the description. If you want to be in the know about releases, then make sure you're on my email list. I'm gonna link the blog post that talks about these units, and if you scroll down to the bottom of that blog post, there's a portion for you to sign up on my email list. You guys, I don't send out a ton of emails. I basically send emails when I make videos. I say, hey, here's my newest video, and when there's sales, because I don't want y'all to miss the sales. But then also product releases. So whenever I have a new science unit, if you're on my email list, you'll know right away. If you have any questions, let's talk about it in the comments. If you love using picture books in your subjects, let me also point you to our American history through picture books. We also do picture book studies in our language arts. We do not use textbooks for those. And we learn language arts through novel guides with my older kids. So if literature is your thing and this is just totally your jam, I've got lots of options for you, and I'll list them in the description below. If you can't tell, I'm passionate about books.